I'm coming from Denmark, one of the countries that were hardest hit when the oil got its first set of wake-up calls regarding oil dependency back in the 1970s. At that time, Denmark was almost totally dependent on imported fuel, and 94% of fuel consumed was oil. In order to offset the risks associated with this delicate situation, numerous programs were started. As a result, we are now in a situation where we are a net exporter of oil. We run some of the world's most efficient power plants, fueled partly by coal, partly by biomass, and we are close to 20% of our electricity production is based on windmills. Finally, a good number of activities have been initiated with a view to save energy. Over the last 20 years, Denmark has achieved an increase in GDP of about 75%, with almost no corresponding increase in energy consumption. But within this overall positive picture, one sector, namely transportation, stands out by showing a constant growth in energy consumption and CO2 emissions. That curve has to be broken, both from an energy security point of view and in order to make sure that Denmark can meet its international climate policy obligations. And this is where Project Better Place comes into the picture. Denmark's transportation system is organized in a way that ought to be mentioned. As Shai said, we have a relatively high density of private cars, and that is in spite of a heavy car registration tax. We also have a comparatively high gasoline cost, also as a result of taxation. Both owning and driving a conventional car are therefore blessings you have to share to a high degree with the rest of society. On the other hand, we are in a situation where electric vehicles are enjoying a quite beneficial tax treatment. And finally, all of the electrical power needed to fuel the car fleet could come from renewable sources. As I mentioned, Denmark was an early mover on wind energy and has now one of the highest ratios of wind to other energy sources in the world. To put these matters in correct proportions, we have estimated that one medium-sized 2-megawatt windmill can, on average, supply the energy needed for 3,000 cars. In a country...
Can you say that again?
One medium-sized 2-megawatt windmill can, on average, supply the energy needed for 3,000 cars.
Thank you.
In a country with 5.4 million inhabitants and some 2 million passenger cars, the entire passenger car fleet could thereby run on electricity produced by less than 750 windmills.
Say that again.
It's correct. In a country with 5.4 million inhabitants and some 2 million passenger cars, the entire passenger car fleet could thereby run on electricity produced by less than 750 windmills.
And what is the megawattage of those windmills?
2 megawatt apiece.
So that would be 750 times 2?
Yes.
Is that
yes.
what you're saying?
1.5 gigawatt.
Okay. Would power the entire automotive fleet for how many vehicles?
2 million passenger cars.
2 million passengers. Thank
On top of that, we have another 500,000 lorries and vans.
you. Please continue.
Wind is not always blowing, so we have also estimated that even if all the electrical charging of cars was sourced from coal-fired power plants, net CO2 emissions would still decline by half, because electric motors are 3 to 4 times more efficient than either gasoline or diesel ones. However, the more wind power we have in our production mix at any given time, the higher the CO2 emissions improvement will be. An additional benefit will come from the fact that most charging will take place at night, when wind power is in excess supply. This means that Denmark will be able to use wind energy that otherwise would have to be exported to neighboring countries, typically at relatively low prices. Finally, we have made calculations on what this would mean for the individual driver. based on conservative estimates on the anticipated cost of both vehicles and batteries, the results are that consumers who migrate from gas to electric cars can expect to enjoy substantial savings. This is in terms of total cost of both owning and driving a car, and it comes without sacrifice of convenience and without sacrifice of driving experience. In summary, we see this project as one with very big upside potential and very little downside risks, both from a consumer and from a public perspective, and both from an energy security point of view and in relation to reduction of CO2 emissions. We therefore hope and ask for all the support we can get from everybody involved. That is, from car manufacturers to policymakers. Our contribution, on the other hand, is to roll out the necessary infrastructure, and to that we are fully committed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll now be happy to address any questions you might have.